Okay, so what we're going to do here is look at a blog post and see if there's some ways we can optimize some things on this post page. And specifically what we're going to look at is some of the formatting. If you look at the formatting for this page right now, you'll notice that right in this area there's a lot of spacing. And I've already added the CSS to, for instance, right in this area, add in some spacing after the image, and I've added the CSS to put in some spacing between the paragraphs. But this page also has this spacing right here, which we don't want. If we go and look at another section of the page, which I've already fixed, you'll notice that right here after the heading, there is no spacing really between the header and the image itself. So we're going to see on this area what we had to do to fix that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go and drop into Beaver Builder, and we're going to take a look at this area. And the first thing you'll notice in here is if I come in here and I look at how this is made up, this right here is in its own separate row. So you see I've got a row settings here. You can see the blue highlighting. So that makes it this designating that this is a row. And if I hover over this, this is our column within the row and it's a heading. If I jump down to this, you'll notice that I've got an image in a column. And again, it's all in a separate row. The issue that we have here is this row is going to add this spacing around it. So it's going to put spacing down here. And then we got this row, which is going to put spacing at the top. So there's a couple of problems with this. The first problem is that then if you want to push this image up underneath the heading and eliminate most of this spacing, you've got a couple of options. One is you can go into the row settings and the column settings and set your margins to margins or padding, depending on how this is set up, to 0, and then go into this row and do the same thing. However, there's a better way and a simpler way to do it rather than doing that. The other problem is that this adds to the complexity of the markup. So I've got a row. Inside the row, I have a column which surrounds this heading, and then inside the column, I have a module. The same is right here. I've got a row, then I have a column which contains this image, and then I have the actual image module inside that column. And if we go down even further, you can see that this is another row. So I've got a row, a column, which is this, and then the module inside there. So we're going to go and simplify all of this. What I'm going to do is we'll take this module, and I'm just going to take and drag it and put it right in the same column. So I could put it in a new column, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put it right with the heading. So we're going to drop that photo right in there, and you can see then that this is coming up right underneath the heading. And I'm also going to take this text and move it up and drop it right then below the image. The benefit of doing this now is that we have one row, one column, and the column then, so it then has the heading, the image, and this text all contained within one or two elements. So we've got those three modules contained in one column in one row. So we've got one row, one column, three modules, and we've eliminated a row and a column, a row and a column on this. We can go ahead and delete these. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, there's a few things that we need to fix in this. You'll notice that there's this colored background in here. And the reason is if I go and look at this, I know that this is all contained in a column. It's because the heading here has a colored background on it, which it really shouldn't have. So I'm just going to fix that. I'll go into the column settings, and then I'm going to go under my style here, and we're going to change that style. I'm just going to scroll down to where it's got the background, and I'm going to remove it by saying none on the background. So now you'll see that all of that background is removed. Then, if you'll look, I did not move this up into this area. And the reason is because this is kind of a little call out, and it does have a background on it. But this also is a row. Well, I'm going to take it out of the row, but I'm going to move this column. And if you'll notice here, I can hover over this column, and I go to column settings. This item is in one column, and I do my column settings here. I can see this is in another column, and then I can see this is in yet another column. So I have one row, and I've got this all in 3 different columns, and we really don't need that. That adds complexity and page load time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start out by just taking this top heading, and I'm just going to move it up. And you'll notice what I do is instead of moving it into the same column, so you can see this dotted blue line around this. That's a column that already exists. But what I want to be able to do is put this into a new column so I can add a background to the column. So I'm just going to move it down a little bit, and that's going to create then a new column inside this column. So now, as soon as this shows up, okay, so if I come in here and I go to I click on this and I go to my column settings, you'll see that this highlights are only around this heading here. If I come up to here, you'll see everything here when I go to column settings is all contained. I go here, let me go back here, column settings. All of that, you see the blue highlighting around there. All of that is in one column container. This is in another column container. So I'm going to take all of this information and drop into that column. So you can see right here, you see the blue highlighting. I'm going to put this module into that column. Then I'm going to take this module and drop it into this column here. So there we go. And let's see, was there anything else? That was it for right now. Also, what I want to do is I want to look at this row background. I just want to grab the color off of this row background. So I'm going to go into my row settings, and then under style, I'm going to go down to my background type is color. Here's my color. So I'm going to click that, and that way I can just simply copy this, which is the color settings on there. I want to maintain those. I'm going to cancel this. And then I'm going to go up to this area. Now remember, from here down to here, we want to have a little bit of highlighting on that. So I'm just going to go on any one of these. I'm going to go into this, click on my column, and highlight column settings. And you can see here how it highlights the area of everything that's included in this column. So I'm going to go to the column settings. And under column settings, I'm going to come down to my background. So I'm doing this on the column, not on the row. So the type is a color background, and the background color, I'm just going to paste in the color that I just had copied, and then go ahead and save that. And once that's saved, you'll notice now I've got a little shading of a background behind this column. And that's to highlight then this subject area. And that allows me to eliminate this row and these 3 different columns that were in this row. So I'm going to go ahead and eliminate that. And then I have effectively another one here, which is another highlight box. So we're going to basically just do the same thing. First of all, I'm going to find out what this is. Column settings. Oh yes, this is a separate column. So I'm going to take this, move it up, and we're going to create a new column because we want a little bit of a separator. If you'll notice, let me go and back out of this. If you'll notice, there was a little bit of white space in between this highlight box, the shading box here, and this next shading box. So we're going to make that 2 separate boxes. That's why I'm going to create a new column. So I'm going to drag this one up, and instead of putting it inside this column, I'm going to add a new column container below it. So we put that into there. Then I'm going to take this module and I'm going to add it to the same column container that little heading thing or callout was in, and I'm going to drop it into that same container. So now both this and this are in the same column. I can then go into my column settings by hovering over this, go to column settings. You can see the highlight there, what's all included in that column. I'll go to that column setting, and under style, I'm just going to do the same thing, and then I'm going to go down to the background. The type is color. I'll put in my color. Again, I'll just paste in the value that was there. I'll save this. And then what you'll see is I have a highlight here and I have a highlight here, and hover over the column settings. And now you can see that whole thing that's included. Now what I do see is there's no gap in here. So I'm going to add some CSS separately from this video that will just create that little gap of white space in between these 2 columns. What this now allows me to do is delete this entire row. So what I will wind up doing is going through this entire post and fixing that on all of these posts to make them simplified and the structure of the page be simpler, and also the ability to manage it and move things around a lot simpler. Okay, just a quick review here. You can see after we've made all the changes, we have a heading up here, we have the image down below, there's the spacing has been eliminated, and because these are now in one column, the styling is correct here. And then we have this area, these examples, in a separate column container, and we've been able to apply then the background to highlight that. And all of these basically follow that same format.